Well, here we are, previewing tomorrow's games. And again, this is because I work from 7:45 in the morning till 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So by the time I come home, a lot of these games will already have started. Jersey I'm wearing is, of course, my brand new, authentic Carolina Hurricanes, because if I'm going to buy jerseys, I might as well buy jerseys of teams that aren't in the playoffs. And for anybody wondering, I did get this through Ben H Sports. I did a jersey unboxing of it tonight. I know not everybody looks at the jersey unboxings, but they still ask where I get the jerseys. So Ben H Sports is on eBay, and he's now apparently going to ship out cards with my likeness on them and my channel to help this channel out. So in return, I may go through Vistaprint and order some cards to promote him through mailings out that I send out to subscribers as well, because that's kind of how the whole networking thing happens, and it's kind of strange, but it's kind of fun at the same time. If you're a patron, watch for a big Jersey Christmas coming up towards the end of this week. I think probably Friday, maybe next Monday, and I mean a big one, like the kind that blows almost every other Jersey Christmas I've had out of the water. So now that I've built that up, that probably won't all come in at the same time. Detroit. So here's an interesting game. The Detroit Red Wings have won 3 in a row. They're sitting with a record of 30, 38, and 11, so they got 71 points. They're in against Columbus, who are 44, 29, and 6 overall. They're 8-1-1 in their last 10. They lost their last game. Columbus is third in the division. They're 2 points behind Pittsburgh. They're tied with Philadelphia, but they have more wins than Philadelphia, thus they're ahead of them. And they're 1 point ahead of New Jersey. So everything's tightly bunched in the Metro. Now, Detroit can play spoiler again. It's really all Detroit has left is playing spoiler. There isn't really anything else they can do. And to me, this game looks like one that Columbus should win and clinch themselves a playoff spot. That being said, Columbus never seems to do anything the easy way this year. And again, Florida's just lingering around and making sure these teams don't clinch. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any real drama other than seedings. Just who's seeded where. Not really who's making or not making the playoffs. We'd already know. We would have known a week and a half ago. Because Carolina wasn't really a threat either. This game, though, and they haven't confirmed any goalies. This is the night before. The only goalie that's been confirmed is Lettinen in Dallas, and I'll get to Dallas. Columbus, I would imagine they'll go with Bobrovsky. I would think Howard for Detroit. Detroit's still trying to figure out what they're going to do for next year, and I think whether they keep or get rid of Howard and go with completely new goaltending battery, I think they're in the process of making up their minds on that. And, of course, the other big issue for Detroit is, are they keeping Ken Holland? And when I was watching a Detroit broadcast the other night, they were talking about Detroit's poor season and Holland potentially leaving. And all of the announcers agreed Ken Holland should stay, and there's no reason for Detroit to get rid of him. And Detroit's been fantastic under his leadership. I would agree, if not for the cap problems that Detroit's found themselves in due to his loyalty. And it's funny because sometimes for a GM, loyalty can be a problem. And I think of that when I see people commenting on players and saying, well, I like this guy, so I hope we keep him because he's a nice guy. And I've said this recently, when a GM's deciding to keep guys because he likes them, because they seem like nice guys, he's a GM that probably won't be in the league for very much longer. Ken Holland in the 90s was making the tough calls. And he was getting rid of guys he needed to, and he was making the team better. And sometimes he would make these moves, and people would just say, oh, I can't believe he let that guy go, and I can't believe this guy got moved. He's bringing this guy in, what for? And then it worked out. And now it just feels like Detroit is run in a more safe manner. Maybe this is as he's gotten older, he's grown safe, or grown more loyal and attached to players in the organization, but it's been to the detriment of the organization. And here we are with them eliminated from the playoffs and me talking about them playing spoiler second year in a row. So, I'm not going to say whether he stays or he doesn't because I don't know. But personally, I think Detroit's leaning to go in a new direction. And that's when people bring up Steve Yzerman, which would be a sore subject, I would think, even in their management. Rangers, another team left playing spoiler. They're 34, 36, and 9. They're 4, 4, and 2 in their last 10, and they won their last game. They're in against the New Jersey Devils, so they can kind of spoil things for the Devils a little bit. They're 42, 28, and 9 overall. They're 7, 2, and 1 in their last 10. They've won their last 2. And this run over the last 10 games has saved their playoff bacon. Because Florida's fallen off the pace, and New Jersey's been fantastic. New Jersey's going to make the playoffs, and they're 1 point back of both Columbus and Philly. So don't rule them out as a third spot team. And if they ended up getting third, just think about that. If it was Pittsburgh and Jersey in the first round, we might be in a situation where Pittsburgh was actually the underdog. Based on how things have gone in the regular season between the two teams, you could see Pittsburgh being an underdog, which would be kind of strange because New Jersey doesn't have the experience. I would think Kincaid would be the starter, at least at the start of the series. It'd be chaos, but New Jersey plays Pittsburgh quite well. They really do. They play Pittsburgh quite well this year. And that would be a much closer series than people might expect. But the Rangers can stop that tomorrow night for at least another night by beating them in regulation, which would leave the door open about this much for the Florida Panthers. They got this much. And for them to kick it open, on the other side of the door, the Devils have to be kicking it a little bit too. The odds of Florida getting in are almost nothing, but they're not quite nothing. So, much like Carolina down the stretch, we're going to have to deal with talk of, well, they're not officially out yet, but they're kind of done. So I would expect Jersey to win this one and clinch themselves a playoff spot, and I would expect Columbus to do so as well. I would be very surprised if any of these teams fall out and allow that door to open so Florida gets in. And I would be very surprised if Florida gets in. That would just be a stunner. Next up, Flyers, 40, 25, and 14 overall, 5, 2, and 3 in their last 10. They've won their last 2. Of course, as mentioned, they're tied with Columbus. As mentioned, they're 1 point ahead of New Jersey. They're the number 1 wild card. They're in against the Islanders, who are 32, 37, and 10. They're 2 and 8 in their last 10. They lost their last 2. The Islanders have been a disaster defensively and in net, as we've talked about all year. The difference being early on, it looked like they might have enough firepower to overcome it, but recently that firepower sort of waned, and without the firepower, they simply don't have what they need to compete. Philly comes in hot. Philly's been playing very well since the first of the year, as I mentioned in a video yesterday. I like the makeup of the Philadelphia Flyers. I like what they have going on. I don't know. Philly, for me, is one of those teams going into the playoffs that, yes, Claude Giroux's been a great player for them. Couturier's had a fantastic season. And again, who's the goalie? And how far is that goalie going to take them? It would be a bloody shame to see the Philadelphia Flyers get knocked out of the first round of the playoffs because goaltending's come up short. We are many years beyond Roman Cechmanek, and I don't know that we've ever got past the ghost of what that was. Ron Hextall has last year in Philly. Like, there's been a long time in between the goalies for Philly who you really believed in the playoffs. Even the year they went to the final in 2010. They were going back and forth between two goalies that we knew weren't number 1 goalies. And it was an odd Stanley Cup, and after that Stanley Cup run, there were a lot of people that said, all right, this is the new template. Go out and just get 2 goalies who are okay, and don't waste money on goaltenders. And I thought, yeah, but they didn't win it. So don't try to base yourself on the team that didn't win. That's a weird template to follow. That's really strange. Anyways, tomorrow night they can go in and nail themselves down into a playoff spot with a win over the Islanders, and then we can have this debate all over again when I do my previews for the playoffs, and I'm sure Flyers fans some would agree, some would disagree, and that's the wonders of the playoffs as much as the regular season is we always agree to disagree as fans. Next up, Boston. The Bruins, 49, 17, and 12. They're 5-1 and 4 in their last 10. They lost their last game in overtime. They've been very good at losing games in overtime. They apparently learned from Anaheim and other teams in the league that that's the way to lose. They're in against Tampa, who are 52-23-4. They're 4-6 in their last 10. They lost their last game. And those 4 overtime points, that's why Boston's in first. Tampa fans have pointed this out, and they're right. They're right to point it out. And I've talked about it before that I really don't like that overtime point deciding things. And Boston has 8 more overtime loss points than Tampa. It's a terrible way to decide who wins the division. And Boston has a game in hand on Tampa, with Tampa 2 points behind him. So Boston probably wins the division. Are they better than Tampa? I don't think they have been throughout the whole season. I think the potential is there for them to be better than Tampa, but can Boston stay healthy? Yes, they're getting everybody back, and oh, it's just great, McAvoy back and everything. But, you know, you get the feeling that every time a couple guys come back, somebody else is going to get hurt. And I'm nervous. I'm nervous as a Bruins fan about where this is going to go. So I am cautiously optimistic about their odds tomorrow night, but I will say this. Because Tampa lost their last game to Boston, I really think Tampa wins this one. Tampa has to win this game. This is the first must-win game Tampa's had since probably November. I mean, I know Boston's been breathing down their necks, but it's a little different. Now they're fighting from behind. So I would imagine that Tampa comes out tomorrow with a lot of fire and a lot of vim and vigor. And Vasi in net with something to prove. Probably against Rask. Rask's been very good, but Rask's been inconsistent. And I'm not all that convinced about Boston's goaltending going into the playoffs either, to be completely frank. I do think there are some weaknesses with both Rask and Hudobin that a team over a 7-game series could take advantage of, and it makes me a little nervous. And tomorrow night, I really think Tampa probably comes out and gets this game. If they win it in overtime, it's going to be very frustrating to everybody involved. Because for Boston, it's another loss, but they get a point, so it's frustrating for Tampa because they're still a point behind Boston, and Boston still has that game in hand. And then Tampa fans would rail again at the fact that then Boston would have 13 overtime loss points. Tampa would have 4, so that'd be 9 points given to Boston, not to Tampa. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Ever since the year Vancouver missed the playoffs because Edmonton had more overtime losses than Vancouver, I don't know that I ever got over that. That was very frustrating. Nashville, 51-17-11. I believe that was 2006 when the Oilers went to the Stanley Cup Final. I believe that was the year. Nashville, 51-17-11 overall. They're 6-3-1 in their last 10. They've won 1 game in a row. They won their last game, which was over Tampa. They're in against Florida. Florida's 40-30-8. They won their last game. They're 5-4-1 in their last 10. And, of course, 7 points behind that second wild card. And with the games in hand that they have, they're still mathematically alive and threatening teams. That can end tomorrow with a win by Nashville. Nashville's 5 points ahead of Winnipeg. If Nashville wins the game, they clinch the division, and they're first in the West. And if Florida loses, in any way, shape, or form, they're done. Overtime loss, yeah, they're done. It's not going to happen, and it's so frustrating because I'm doing these as objective as possible, but when I'm looking at the math, I'm like, well, I have to say that Florida's alive because it would be incorrect and unfair and biased for me not to say they're alive, but it also would be unfair for me to play it up like, hey, they could still make it, let's go on a run. And if there's a team that's ready to knock somebody off, I would think it might be Nashville. Nashville's looked vulnerable lately. This is part of the reason why, again, with Tampa, I'm like, it's been a rough go, but because both Nashville and Tampa have looked vulnerable lately. And I think for Nashville, much like Tampa, it had been so long since they had really meaningful games that it can be harder to up your compete level when everybody you're playing against has been playing so much harder. And, I'm not trying to make an excuse for this. I know that's a thing that happens. Other teams are suddenly playing a lot harder. And if you've been able to kind of coast a little bit, it can be harder to turn things up a bit. Both Nashville and Tampa can do it, and Nashville tomorrow night can do everybody in the East a favor and just wipe Florida right out of the conversation altogether. Just take them right out of there. Next up, so Winnipeg, with very, very minor hope. With 3 games left, they're 5 points back of Nashville for first in the division, so we got to talk about it. 49-20-10. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They won their last 2 games. They're in against Montreal, who are 28, 39, and 12. They're 3-7 in their last 10. They lost their last 2. Now, this is not insignificant. Winnipeg has a shot to win 50 games for the first time in their existence. And Hellebuck played tonight, so Mason tomorrow night? Comrie? Hutchinson? Who's not injured? Who's going to play? I'm guessing Comrie. Do you go with Hellebuck against Montreal? No. Hellebuck played tonight. And Winnipeg's pretty much clinched that second spot. I don't know that Winnipeg and Paul Maurice are going to worry themselves about what Nashville's doing. This is about going into the playoffs healthy, so I would expect whoever's going to be the backup tomorrow, and I would expect Comrie, unless Hutchinson or Mason have had a miraculous recovery. I would expect that in against Montreal. I almost expect Niemi in this game, because it seems like Montreal's splitting games between the two, but it'll probably be Price. Montreal's playing out the string. They have been the most disappointing team in Canada, I think by a narrow margin now over Edmonton and Ottawa. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. You can make an argument for any of the three. Montreal's offense, Ottawa's overall composition, and the Duchesne trade that seemed to sink everything. Although they weren't playing great before that trade either. And Edmonton they were supposed to be contenders this year, and they're not even close. So any of those 3 Canadian teams you could rate. I did do a poll a few weeks ago on the biggest tire fire, and I think I should post it again, because it'd be interesting to see if the results are the same now as they were a few weeks ago. And yeah, Winnipeg should go in and win this game, but because we're close to the end of the season, because this game doesn't mean a whole lot to Winnipeg, that might be a spot where you'd put your upset. Maybe. Arizona. The Coyotes go into Calgary. Neither team's making the playoffs. 28, 40, and 11 Arizona, who've been playing very well over the last half of the season. They're in against the Flames, who are 36, 33, and 10. But Arizona's 5-5 in their last 10. Calgary's 2-8 in their last 10. If Calgary had been 500 in their last 10, they wouldn't be in the playoffs, but it wouldn't be nearly as disappointing as it looks right now, would it? This has been one horrible season for Calgary, and I've mentioned it before. I'm not sure where this goes at the end of this year. There'll be some very interesting videos once all the non-playoff teams are out, because there's going to be a lot of coaches getting fired, a lot of GMs. I think not a lot. A few GMs are going to get fired. I think probably 4 or 5 coaches get fired. And Arizona, as bad as they've been, neither coach nor GM, I think, are in any sort of trouble. The second half of the season, I think, has saved Rick Tocchet's job for at least the start of next year. And Chayka has shown enough with the players he's picked up that I think he'll get another shot next year as well. Calgary, I don't know. I think Gullickson's probably gone. Tree Living will definitely get another. He's got a little more length on the rope before he gets hung. And I don't mean that in a literal sense. Obviously. I say that obviously because there'll always be a comment. But, you know, it's weird because Calgary has a much better record than Arizona overall this year. But if you look at it, you can argue that Arizona's been a success the second half, and Calgary's been an absolute disaster. So maybe they're in the tire fire conversation as well. Maybe not as much. And there's going to be some uncomfortable conversations about Calgary, and I am perfectly willing to have them once the season's over. Because every time I talk about the Flames, there are all these comments in the comment section that have me saying, you know what? We need to have a conversation about the direction of the Flames. Massive conversation about the direction of the Flames. And tomorrow night, I would not be surprised to see Arizona go in and beat them. I would not be surprised to see Ronta make about 35 saves. I would not be surprised to see Calgary get shut out. And to see guys like Strome and Domi start showing that they're ready to lead next year for Arizona. And it's sad for Calgary. And it's sad for fans in Canada that want to see more teams in Canada make the playoffs. I personally love the playoffs if it's all American, but I do think it's fun if the Canadian teams are in there as well. Vegas. Vegas gets to end the season in Western Canada. Envy them. Envy them muchly. 50, 22, and 7. 5-3-2 record in their last 10. They've won their last 2. They're first. They're number 2 in the West, and nobody's pushing them out of that spot. Vancouver 30, 49, and 9, or 30, 40, and 9. 5-5 in their last 10. They've won 4 in a row. Watch out for Vancouver. Now, I did the video today about the Sedins announcing their retirement. I wish them well. That being said, the price for tickets for this game tomorrow night and subsequent Canuck games are insane. Are you crazy? I watched the Sedins twice this year, knowing that this year was likely their last year, and I paid close attention to them, and I'm glad I saw them, and I'm glad I didn't have to pay an insanely exorbitant price to see them. As soon as they made the announcement online, made the announcement in the newspaper, and then all the articles came out online about him retiring, the price for those tickets jacked up by 3 or 4 times. Not on the Canucks' actual website. I'm talking about the resellers. Vultures. Anyways, I'm glad I saw them when I did. I'm not going to see the last few games of the year. No, I don't regret not buying tickets because I work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. When am I going to see one of their games? Sucks, but I didn't have a chance to see any of their games even if I wanted to when the tickets prices were low. This game tomorrow night, other than the Sedins' retirement, there's not really anything of interest here. Fleury has a chance to put another win on his resume. I assume Fleury's going to be in this game. Vegas has a chance to have some of these players add more to their personal totals, which are intimidating and fantastic. But it's going to be going to be one of those nights. I do hope the Sedins put up some points on their way out the door. If they don't, that's fine too. But there's going to be some nice tributes to the Twins over the next few games, and it's going to be nice. I also want to throw in there were some comments regarding the Sedins that I removed off the channel on that video, and again, it's because I made the point in that video of my respect for them, and how I felt about the comments, and then they always show up right after, like people are almost daring me to do something, so I just take them out. They don't help the conversation. And then there's a lot of trolling that goes on YouTube. I'm not sure if you guys know that from comment sections. Sometimes there's troll comments in there. Can you imagine? It's like, what? There's a troll on YouTube? Holy crap. Anyways, I do my best to keep this channel as troll free as possible, because you should have the right to come onto a channel and say, I like this player, and then not have to worry about somebody making all these really nasty derogatory references. And I was seeing that today, and I was like, no, I'm not today. Not today. These guys spent 18 years as Vancouver Canucks, and I'm sorry, but there's a respect that has to be there. I can understand when people take shots at Brad Marchand. Absolutely. And I make no bones about it that I can understand people taking shots, and that's something that I don't police very much at all. But, the Sedins, and it would be the same if it was about, I know last week there were comments about Taylor Hall that I was taking out as well. And there's been comments about other players that I've been on the fence about as well. So, I try to keep things decent. And at this point in time, there are Canuck fans that are genuinely upset to see the Sedins leave. And, some of the comments I see are just flat out stupidity, and they're only there to invite flaming. When I've seen a comment that's constructive, then I'm perfectly willing to engage with it and discuss things. But when it's just, I'm going to say something outrageous, look what I said, then that's just, there's a whole wide world of internet out there. There's all these tubes you just stick your comments in, and so stick it up your tube is what I'm telling you. Anyways, let's get on to the last game, shall we? Dallas. Speaking of flameouts, 40-31-8. They're 5 points out of a wild card, but they're mathematically out. They can't catch teams ahead of them because of the way the schedule runs. It just looks like they can, but they can't. They're in against San Jose, 44-25-10. San Jose 7-2-1 in their last 10. They've lost their last 3. I didn't put up the last 10 games for Dallas because, honestly, it would just be a hockey guy rage face. They fell out of the playoffs again. How? how does this keep happening to Dallas? This is something I've been watching for about 5 years now, where Dallas looks good. They look like they're going to make the playoffs. The 1 year there, they were winning the division, and 2 weeks later, they're out of the playoffs. How does this keep happening? And tomorrow night, they're in against San Jose, and I hope San Jose wins this one. Because I really... yeah, I hope San Jose wins it. And that says a lot, because anybody who's been a fan of this channel for a while will go, wait, did he just hope San Jose beats Dallas? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to see Dallas finish with 92 points and hear comments in the offseason like, well, we were close. I don't want Jim Nill to be able to say, well, we were close, we had some issues, and really I think we're on the right track and I'm going to keep things going the way they're going. No, I want this team to lose out. I want this team to lose their last 3 games, and I want to see real change with the way Dallas approaches this, because it doesn't work. This isn't working. All of the attempts made to fix the team either got injured or didn't work. In some cases, it was both. And for San Jose, they've had one heck of a run this season. I agree with, when I was talking about MVPs, somebody said Logan Couture for San Jose. You know what? Logan Couture, based on the fact that he played when his face got all its teeth knocked out last spring, yeah. I can't hate on Couture for that. You're willing to go out there wearing a full face cage because your jaw is busted to crap and your teeth are all over your face. Full respect for him, and you know, San Jose could be a dangerous team in the playoffs. I would not be surprised to see San Jose get through a couple of rounds and get to the conference championships. It would not surprise me at all. And if it was San Jose and Nashville, that could be one heck of an ugly series. If it was San Jose and Winnipeg, that could be one heck. San Jose and almost anybody. And then, of course, the longer they go in the playoffs, the more chance there is to have a Joe Thornton in there at whatever level of health is possible. And again, I might be pulling strings on that one or dreaming on that one. But anyways, it would be nice to see San Jose win this one, go out on a winning note, hit that 100-point mark. Another team at 100 points. I have been working on a list of teams with bad seasons and teams with great seasons, and I'm going to compare seasons from 81 when I started watching hockey until now, and see just how diverse this really gets. Like, when real parity exists and you don't have a lot of really bad or really great teams, and where we're at now. So I'm going to take a look at that and watch for that to be videos in the coming weeks. There's a lot of other fun stuff coming up in the coming weeks, but there's probably going to be a lot of rants as well. So, hey, you guys got that to look forward to, especially in the playoffs. I rant a lot in the playoffs. You guys are going to enjoy that. I have to watch my language, though. I do, because I do. I do my best to watch that now. Not as much a year ago, so don't go looking for those. But I do now. So, you know, the Halo and all that. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. There's your games for tomorrow night. I'll talk to you again soon.